It is 7 p.m. and we have a quorum, I believe, present. So I would like to call this meeting of the Hanson Conservation Commission to order, July 25th, 2017. This meeting will be conducted under the State Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Hanson Local Bylaw, Article 3-13, Section 5. This opening statement and requirements of those regulations will apply for all business conducted at this meeting. Roll call, please.
Bill Woodward.
Chair of the board.
Phil Clemens.
Paul Andrew.
Laurie Muncy.
Michael DeVert.
One of our members, Brenner Ardette, is unable to be here tonight, but we do have a quorum, so this meeting is open. What we will do, we will pass for the moment on the review of minutes from July 17th, and we will start with the first item on our agenda, which is a continued notice of intent for the construction of an above-ground regulator station with driveway, including site grading utilities off Whitman Street. This is for Columbia Gas of Massachusetts, represented by Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors. Is the gentleman, yes, if for the camera you can introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Joshua Bose from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors. I also have with me Angie Bottom. Angie's a co-op student with us, a second-year co-op student. She goes to Clemson University, so she's here. I'm trying to, she helped me fill out the application. I want her to kind of see the whole process through and help her understand what some of the forms are and what the purpose of the application was and see this through. So
Excellent. Well, what we'd like to do, again, this is continued and notice of intent, so we will let you pick up where we need to, wherever we left off.
Sure. I'll be brief because I believe a few of the members have heard my spiel before, if you will. We're here to represent Columbia Gas. Columbia Gas, the purpose of this project is to replace an existing regulator station that's located at the corner of Brook Road and Winter Street, just down the road.
That would be Brook Street.
Yes, Brook Street, yes.
Just so the public knows that we know.
Yes, exactly. That station is currently in a state of disrepair. It's an underground station. There's a lot of issues with corrosion and access to the station that's underground at a somewhat of a dangerous intersection. So the gas company has an interest in replacing that station and bringing that regulated station up to today's standards within the company. And that standard is an above ground station. So it's the same type of station with the piping and the valves, but it's going to be enclosed in the building. We looked at many different sites within the area. The new station has to be within a half to 1 mile of the existing station, and we found this particular site that was available, and or the gas company put this particular site under agreement. And the site's located, generally speaking, at the corner of Whitman Street and Winter Street. There is a town-owned piece that actually occupies the corner, but this particular site has frontage along Winter and frontage along Whitman Street. Generally speaking, it's all wetlands. It's about 9 acres. There's about a half acre of upland in this area here off of Whitman Street. The wetlands were delineated by Brad Holmes of Environmental Consulting and Restoration. One other thing to note about the existing site, it's surrounded on all sides by town-owned property. So this is town-owned, and the site at the corner is also town-owned property. The gas company would like to construct a 24-foot wide by 36-foot long metal building to contain a regulated station. And that building will be served by 2 driveway access points off Whitman Street. Initially there was one cheaper, simpler, one access point off Whitman Street right in front of the building, but there was a comment or suggestion made by somebody in the Zoning Board of Appeals, I believe, to have 2 so that we sort of break up the view of the station. With one access in front of the building, we'd be able to have a direct view of the building and the facility. So we do have 2 access points, and we do have a couple of perspective views of that of the station based on somebody driving along Whitman Street. The couple other comments to make. We are within the 50-foot buffer with some of the work, and we recognize that that requires a variance from the local bylaw, notwithstanding any type of utilities exemptions that would maybe considered for this. So we did submit a variance request, and as mitigation for that impact to the buffer, we are proposing a wetland buffer mitigation plan, and Brad Holmes from ECR actually outlined that, and he has those steps outlined on the plan. We are proposing, obviously, a silt sock along the limit of work for this particular project. And a couple of things I want to point from a wetlands protection standpoint. There will be very limited activity. Once this is constructed, there's very limited activity on the site, especially when compared to, say, a single-family house. Most of this site is monitored remotely. The only time there'll be somebody on site is if something is not, there's something on the remote monitoring picks up something that needs to be addressed or looked at, somebody will come to the site and check it out.
Or perhaps to plow snow in the winter.
Of course, yes, of course. And there's no septic system, there's no portable water proposed, so there will be no septic system, for this particular site, which obviously is less of an impact than a single-family house. And lastly, we recognize the fact that this area, and we actually learned a lot about the area from the last meeting we were at here, that this area is significant to the mitigation of stormwater from the watershed that drains toward this area. So as a condition, we'd be willing to accept a condition of approval to donate this land in fee, which seems to be the preferred method, or a conservation restriction to the town once our permits are received and we are able to carve out what we need for the site. We would be willing to give the rest of the town so that they can combine it with the rest of the land they own and basically perpetually protect this whole area from being disturbed by any means, quite frankly. I know you guys have a full night. I know Lori has to leave soon, so I'm going to stop there and try to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Is there any comments you have about stormwater management on the site itself? Because the commission understands that DEP requested that you prepare a stormwater management plan for the purpose, since there will be, with the building there and maybe the aprons of the driveway, some impervious surfaces that will shed water a little more quickly than otherwise would be the case. I know I had a chance to look at the stormwater plan, but maybe you could just give the highlights of it, because
Sure.
It seemed very thorough for
Yeah.
DEP requirements.
Yeah, it was. Angie did a lot of that work with the help of another engineer in my absence, so it was very thorough. So briefly, yes, I don't want to get into why it wasn't proposed initially, but what is being proposed is we are proposing a roof dry well system to handle runoff from the roof. So that infiltrates runoff from the roof into a dry well system that's underground. The runoff that's currently flowing towards the wetland area in this direction, we are capturing that runoff in a rain garden that's here. It's a very slight depression, and there's a planting schedule for the rain garden on the detail sheets, but that is capturing the runoff. And the stormwater report that we submitted contains all the calculations to support the runoff rates pre and post, the required recharge volumes that for this site, operation and maintenance. It includes a stormwater checklist, and as far as we're concerned, it meets all the requirements of DEP. I think it's a bit overkill for this site, but we did want to comply with their request.
You followed the letter of their requirements.
Thank you.
I think we're pausing now here to see if the commission members have any questions about this.
Vegetation management along the perimeter of the wetland, where I assume there's a fence in there.
Yes, you are correct. So one of the changes that we made to the plan based on the meeting we had with the commission is, you guys pointed out a very good point. We do need to maintain at least a 5-foot strip of basically mowed lawn or maintenance of the vegetation along the outside of the fence, and that's what we've shown on this particular plan. We have the erosion control 5 feet from the outside of the fence so that we can maintain the vegetation in the area, so there's no trees growing that somebody could use to climb over the
Maintain the
fence.
integrity of the fence.
It'll be all cultural management.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. There's a conservation mix that's proposed. Exactly.
Additional questions?
What are you proposing to plant in the rain garden? I'm just curious what the
Yes.
vegetation would be.
There's a
It's good to have the type of vegetation that's already on site rather than adding something new to the area.
We are proposing a winterberry holly, a New England aster, and a daylily. Those are the 3 plantings, so.
In other words, the holly is a wetland shrub, and the others are more or less
Semi-regular.
herbaceous, but rugged and long-lasting.
Yes.
Annuals, not annuals, but perennials that would grow every year.
Correct.
With minimal care and hopefully optimal success.
Yes, that's the plan.
Comments from the agent, perhaps?
I have no comments or concerns, actually.
I know that, again, I had an opportunity to look at the plan and looked at the stormwater calculations, and it covered everything up to, was it a 100-year storm?
Yes.
And as you say, it might seem like overkill for such a small site, but the numbers were there, and the illustrations, the graphs, it was as clear as humans can make it.
That's a good
And still cover all the necessary details. Well, what we have done now is we've spent a couple of sessions, first informally, and then the original opening of the hearing, and then this continuation of the hearing. It seems to me we're getting where we need to be. I do have one question further, and that is, maybe it would be addressed by the conditions that we would set for this project, but the boundary lines, if you will, between what Columbia Gas would retain as owned and what might be conveyed to the town, should the town see fit to agree with what you propose. You might need to keep, what, 1 acre, 3/4 of an acre?
It's an acre, yeah.
Okay. Any idea of where that line might be drawn? Or is it,
There's, we haven't contemplated yet, but we would be willing to accept a condition with language that, requires us to maintain the minimum amount of area. In other words, whatever is necessary to meet zoning. I think a consideration would be to make sure that this is owned by the town, but to make sure that we don't carve off this frontage, just in case there was any access needed to maintain
Right, in other
this
words,
area.
don't necessarily reduce the frontage that you now have on Whitman Street. You'd want to retain that.
Well, we'd want to retain the necessary frontage to have a buildable lot, but whatever we didn't need, we'd be willing to make it connect to the remaining land that would be offered to the town.
Exact shape.
Just in case there was any trail, I mean, who knows what the future may hold.
Right, and again, that little triangle on the upper left, I know from looking at the records, that actually is care and custody of conservation, and I'm not sure the status of all the others, but it's interesting what you propose, and so far, I think it has sounded pretty good to the commission.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Any comments, questions from the public? Well, it seems to me we're very close to being able to bring this to a conclusion. Any disagreement with that, Laurie, as agent?
What we should do when we close the public hearing is that we will take up the conditions when she returns, and then we'll sign it at the next meeting.
So, based on everything we've heard, I think that it could be time to entertain a motion to accept the plan for this project, subject to an order of conditions that we would be preparing in a formal basis, have not yet signed, and proceed in accordance with the plan and with all those conditions.
So moved.
Do I hear a motion? I heard a motion to close, well, first of all, to accept the plan, to approve the plan.
Yes, and that was what the motion, that motion I was
Do I
making.
hear a
to
second?
approve the plan.
Second.
Further discussion on the plan itself? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining, 400. So again, we will formalize the order of conditions and prepare that, and I'm sure within a few business days, maybe next week, because our administrative assistant is
Sure.
under the weather.
I know that's-
We'll be in touch again, and we will be signing that at our next meeting.
Okay. And just to confirm, we don't have to attend that particular meeting, correct?
No.
Okay, great.
And the next step we need to take is to entertain a motion to close the hearing. So moved. Your motion, do I hear a second? Discussion. If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, 400. Thank you very much. We will go over with a fine-tooth comb all necessary details, put together the order conditions, and be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Except you're supposed to scare Angie more. staying in this
Well-
profession.
What we're doing is trying to be efficient, we're not trying to be scary.
It used to be scary for me.
We have a
so I,
scary plan, it can be scary.
The
Well, that's
the
true, that's a
regulations
good
are
point.
scary, but you've overcome them, and thank you very much.
Go ahead and
Thank
stay.
you for your time, I appreciate it.
Moving along, our next item on the agenda is, just a few minutes behind, we're continuing with a request for amendment to the order of conditions to replace the original 3 6-inch pipes with 2 18-inch pipes at 2 culvert crossings within 100 feet of water and vegetated wetland at 100 Greenbrier Lane. This is DEP file number SE 175-0673. Mr. Joseph Memo and Webby Engineering have been presenting us information for some time. There's been a lot of discussion about how to improve the plans. Mr. Webby, would you care to add what you have?
Yes, we were asked by Joe to, Mr. Memo, to increase we had 2 pipe crossings with 3 6-inch pipes, and he had asked us to change those or revise those to 2 18-inch. So instead of 6 pipes, we now have 4. Then the commission had requested a drainage report, which we did get to you a couple of weeks ago, and there is a review letter from your engineer that I believe says that this is fine.
The question for the agent, John Delano's review letter. Okay. While we retrieve that letter, because we appreciate you doing that, just to reiterate, what has been changed is the plan to put, instead of 6-inch diameter pipes, 18-inch diameter pipes. And I believe that, even without looking at the paper, the cross-sectional area available for pass-through of stormwater is significantly larger. What was the ratio again?
6 to 1.
So it's about 6 times larger than it used to be by the original, plus an 18-inch pipe. Based on our site walks at the property, when there was a lot of rain a couple months ago, we realized a lot of water would need to pass. Larger pipes, we believe, are less subject to being clogged, and we think that's an advantage. And what we did do, we asked the applicant and Webby to put together an analysis showing that the amount of rain you get from, say, a 100-year storm, which would be quite a storm, to make sure that this was adequate for that. And we now, as a commission, are going to speed read this letter, which is dated July 19th, from John Delaney and Associates. And they do have a few comments. We'll read it and then summarize them.
We're gonna have to keep the pipes around. So it's gonna be up and down.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to go up and down. It's gonna be, the pipe, the driveway is gonna be about another 4 hours. So it's the whole thing? No, just the pipes
Yeah.
in one area.
In addition to looking at this, by the way, folks, what we're going to do, we're going to look at the overall arrangement of utilities, because obviously this larger pipe would potentially change how things look on an underground basis, so we'll talk about that as well. The 5 comments that Mr. Delano has made, unless there's a better plan, why don't I summarize them since we now have them in writing here? Again, Mr. Delano, who is the town's independent consulting engineer, looked at everything that was submitted. He notes that the existing watershed plan appears to reasonably model the drainage area contributing to the easterly pair of 18-inch pipe culvert inlets. This opinion is based on topographical information shown on the plan. The westerly pair of pipe culverts, ones closer to the proposed house, or the existing house, I should say, have a very small watershed area, and therefore, with less of a concern, be concentrated on the easterly culverts. And the premise is that that would make, if the eastern culverts were suitable, then review in detail of the westerly ones would not be necessary. So Delano's indicated, we reviewed the parameters and determined the runoff and ground surface curve number, et cetera, and find them to be understated, The result of the understated parameters when used in the computer model yield a conservative result. Let's keep reading. Using independent methods, we calculated the capacity of the 18-inch pipe culverts and find that the capacity is more than actually reported by the applicant's engineer. Therefore, the pipe culverts will handle the runoff from upslope of the subject property. That was number 4. Number 5 said, lastly, we are pleased that the plan has been changed to increase the diameter of the culverts. This allows for less chance of blockage, which could have resulted in pond impacts to the abutter. And that's, of course, key to the whole thing, to avoiding those kinds of impacts. In summary, again, quoting Mr. Delaney, it is our opinion that the revised plan is worthy of your commission's approval. Thank you for the opportunity to be of assistance. Thoughts, comments from the agent?
I'm okay with
Commission, questions?
Okay, there were a total of 6-inch pipes, but only 3 of the 6 are being replaced?
No,
All
we're
6.
replacing all 6.
All
Yeah.
6.
So instead of
That's 3.
6-inch pipes, there will be 4 18-inch pipes. And the ratio, the cross-sectional area has been increased by a factor of 6 total.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's less likely to become clogged, 3 smaller pipes together. Not to mention what you probably got turtles and things crawling through them, which could constitute a major clog if you're not careful.
Will the highest point of the cross-section of the culvert still be lower than the lowest part of the road?
Highest part of the road.
The top of the culvert, there's no part of the road that's lower than in elevation.
In other words, the culvert will represent the low point which water would seek. There's no
Yeah,
place
that's
where you
right, yes.
overtop the driveway.
Yeah. These are the 2 low point, naturally low points right now.
What ought we to hear, because we'd like to see, about the cross-section of the driveway? Because you have the driveway, which is passed underneath by these culverts, but then there are other utilities there. Could we have a summary of
Sure.
where that plan stands?
Yeah, the electric conduits, they're in the same spot. They don't have to be as deep as the pipe. They can be just down the 18 inches.
And that is shown as basically, it's on, let's call it the downslope side of the
That would
driveway.
be on the wetland side.
Right, away from the butters.
However, the water line that this is an addition to the plan. Joe had asked us to also put on a water line
A water supply line for the home,
for the home. And
From the
that
street.
has to be 5 feet below the surface.
for frost protection.
Of cross protection, so that will be under the pipe, so that's gonna have to be put in first.
Okay. And is that to scale, the location that this is planned?
These are not to scale, but it's close, but basically you have to be 5 feet down.
And the width of the driveway continues to be, just for the record, from
It's the
edge to
same
edge?
12 feet that the fire chief wanted with the 2-foot shoulders. The width hasn't changed, but what will change is now that we have an 18-inch pipe instead of a 6-inch pipe over the pipes, we need a foot of cover.
You'll be adding that foot of
We
cover.
have to have that foot of cover. Just at these 2 points. So it could be just a little roller coaster.
The discussion over the months has been so long, so many details, I hesitate to say how close I think we are to the end, but one thing we do need to do is to open the floor, since it's a public hearing, to comments or questions from the public. So we are open to any such comments or questions at this time. And for the record, could we identify ourselves, even though we've done it before?
My name is Amelia Renier,
And
and
you
I
live
live at 57 Briar Lane in Hanson, which is the property directly next to the driveway. And I have a concern because it is 18 inches, and if the other pipe is 5 feet deep, that leaves you with 3.5 feet above the water lines, correct?
I don't know.
Well, if it's 5 feet and it's at 18, that's a 1.5 feet. So that brings it about 3.5 feet above the water line.
There's a diagram here which should show us.
Was that correct?
Well, let's think about it. We need You need a foot of cover from the top of the driveway to the top of the pipe's a foot, 18 inches of pipe, and that's 2.5 feet. So from the bottom of the pipe to the bottom of the water line would be 2.5 feet by my presentation.
Have you, what is the high water mark or the groundwater? How high is the groundwater?
Well, we're assuming that groundwater is at that spot.
Yeah,
In other words, when you have flood or heavy rain, it's right at ground level that's there right now.
it's right, the water is at ground level?
Well, I think I'm answering your question. What was the question?
The question is, if it's going to be 18 inches, unbeknownst to me, another foot above it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I need a foot of cover over the top of
Okay.
any pipe.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we're looking at 2.5 feet down for the bottom of the pipe. But the top of the pipe is only a foot.
Let's be
Correct.
clear which pipe we're talking about, culvert or water supply?
No, the culvert. The
Culvert.
water supply is 5 feet.
Very deep, yes.
Right. So now we're looking at 2.5 feet down, which means the bottom of the 18-inch pipe is going to be 3 feet above the water line.
2.5.
Oh,
1 foot,
yeah.
18 inches a foot.
2.5, right, 2.5, that's right, sorry. And I'm gonna take the writing.
Yeah.
And so that means that how, it's above the water line by
2.5 feet.
2.5 feet? Okay. My concern is, what if it isn't deep enough?
But the water line itself?
No, the pipe to
The-
carry the water line,
What
the
if
water away from the property.
What if the culvert pipe is not deep enough?
Right.
Relative to
To the water.
the surface water that's running off?
While the surface water that's running off could also have the groundwater, hit the groundwater above.
I'm
I don't
not
think
sure
she
I
understands the pipe sits at ground level. I think she thinks it's going under the ground to catch
The
water. That's
bottom
her-
of the culvert pipe, as we understand it, is flush with the surface of the earth at its upstream
So the
end.
surface of the earth, that's as low as the pipe goes. It doesn't go under the sides of
If
the...
the water at the surface has either run off or soaked in, of course, there will be, as we find almost everywhere, groundwater below it. And the drier conditions are, the lower down the groundwater table will be. But what we are concerned about with the culvert is the water that's not in the ground, but the water that's on the surface running towards the wetland.
I know, but sometimes if that water is spilling into already a high level groundwater, where is it gonna go? Is it gonna go in the pipe? And what is the angle of the pipe? And what is the angle of the top of the driveway to divert the water away? It's pretty hard to tell water where to go.
No, it's very easy. Gravity does all of that.
Well, then it has to be at an angle, right? Because if it's flat, the water's gonna go on both sides, right?
I will say that our diagrams show the culvert is at an angle pointing from the uphill side to the wetlands. We'll maybe let Mr. Webber, the engineer, speak about the angle of the surface.
Yeah, this pipe has to have a 1 foot, what we call a 1% slope, which is 1 foot in 100, which is a pretty minimal slope, but that'll get water to
And-
flow.
And then the surface of the driveway, is
The
there a
surface of the
question?
driveway, we have that, we've designed it so that it all drains towards the wetland. In other words, there's a slight pit, we don't want a crown,
Right.
like a regular roadway, that would go both ways. It's going this way, you should have it sloped so that it goes
True.
Flowing
Exactly.
towards the wetland,
Right.
okay.
Now, that is not packed, that is just packed dirt, and when it hits dirt, it doesn't really stay. It can be washed away and therefore affect the angle of the
They
driveway.
would love to
Maybe.
pave it, but they won't let us.
Well,
No, well,
maybe,
that-
I don't know if we allow them to pave.
I know, it'd be a lot of pavement. but
for,
yeah, you
for,
can't-
for the record, the surface of this driveway, right, that was intended to be exactly what material?
Hard packed gravel.
Hard packed gravel, that's the plan. And earlier versions of the conditions that were set by a commission that was actually somewhat different from these members here, asked for that hard packed gravel surface. And so that's what we're looking at, because even though the water will run off, it also will somewhat absorb into it.
Okay.
That was the thinking, I believe, of the earlier.
If for any reason this doesn't work, all right, what recourse do you have, or I have?
Our job as a commission has been to work with our consultant and the applicant as engineer to make sure that it will work. We have calculations and documentation here that we believe it will work.
Okay.
If you have something that causes it to not to work, I think we'll be back in this room talking about a solution. But what's been presented to us shows every indication to this point of being a good solution. Because we know that the water right now, since before anyone built any house, it was flowing downhill. We wish that to continue. The pipes were made larger.
And we also lost a lot of vegetation and trees that would have alleviated a lot of the groundwater and water.
During the growing season, trees do absorb groundwater and emit it to the atmosphere. During the rest of the season, when there's no leaves on it, they do not. So
But
what we
that's
feel
not-
we have done is we have allowed for all the seasons,
So for how long they're not sucking up water? I mean,
as long as they don't have leaves.
But that isn't very long.
That's 8 months out of the year, 7 months out of the year, they don't have leaves.
And that tends to be the time of year with the highest water table also.
What we're doing is we're worrying less about the role of the trees. They help us when they're there transpiring water. The rest of the time, they're sitting there fairly neutral. All the time, their roots and so on are stabilizing the soil surface, which helps us by preventing erosion. What we are doing, we are looking at the water, the runoff, during, simply as a physical, not a biological process. The water will flow downhill at whatever rate the trees and leaves and ground cover have always allowed it to. It will reach these pipes, it will flow through the pipes. The pipes will be kept clear. We know that will happen because we're requesting and monitoring of that. And the intention is to not cause any more than already would have happened without the driveway. To cause there to be a non-flooding condition. That's the intention of the plan.
Right, that's the way it was up until the driveway, and the only thing that concerns me about the driveway, it is in certain areas, it is almost as high as my stone wall.
Well, it has.
And it was never that high, so I'm wondering if that might have something to do with it.
It has 18-inch culverts under it, or it's going to. The height of it is not as relevant as the opening sizes that are under it, because the water is not going to be required to go over it. It will be required to go under it. And that's what we'll all be watching with great interest. But we believe, based on the calculations that have been presented and our review of the site and extensive discussion, we have an independent engineer's opinion that it's approvable. That's what we have.
Well, but it doesn't give a guarantee that it won't happen. That,
No one
it's
can give a
approvable,
guarantee.
But everything, I'm not disputing what you're saying, okay? I understand that you're doing what you can with what you have for information. But I, being a bit of a skeptic since this whole thing started, needless to say, and I just would like to know, like I said, where's my next report? Because I'm hoping, I really hope, you think I don't want this, believe me, I don't want this. And that concerns me because of the height of the driveway in certain areas and because of what has happened. And I have a backyard that, because of this year's water situation, that looks like a jungle. And I intend to clear it, which means a lot of that property, and it's not trees, believe me, it's just these green, I don't know what they are. They're about this high and they're green and they got leaves all over them and they're skinny. But there are tons of them all over the place. So needless to say, they're sucking up a lot of water, and that, my backyard had been cleared, so.
All the vegetation is thriving this year, that's for sure.
Yeah, right.
I think the previous problem was because the road went in before the culverts.
Right.
That was exactly the issue.
I think
Nothing was
we
Because-
saw that in spades, and that's why the applicant
sequence.
took a backhoe and dug a ditch through that basically
And
disconnected
where-
and relieved the immediate problem.
The water line is 5 feet deep. where is the electric line? How deep is that?
You can describe it to us, Mr.
Yeah, the
Webb?
electric line has to be 18 inches below the surface.
So, in essence, it's conceivable that they could hit that, I mean,
Which,
The electric line can go lower, it just has to be a minimum of 18 inches.
and it's in a protective, what would the word,
Yeah,
conduit?
PVC conduit, yeah.
They use a heavy gray PVC
Yeah.
conduit.
They're both lit already, right?
Yeah,
All that's done.
and they're all lower, way lower, just so we didn't run into any issues.
I would say that all the abutters have been very on topic and very honest with their concerns. We appreciate that. That and what we saw with our own eyes caused us to require a thorough redesign of the drainage, and that's happened. As far as a guarantee, no one can guarantee anything. Before the summer's over, we might have a 1,000-year storm. We all hope we don't. But
I've
if-
been through a 500-year storm.
Well, may we all be fortunate enough not to have that again or soon. But what we will do, I think, is take into account all the redesign that's been done, the opinions of independent folks on this, our own thoughts and considerations. Commissioners, comments, questions at this point? And Laurie, our agent, comments, questions?
Just wait and see.
Well, we do have, what this is an action to amend the existing order of conditions. And that order of conditions is lengthy with many details in it. And the language to change the description of the culvert pipes is what we're talking about here. I think I would entertain a motion from the commission to see if we agree with the details of the enlarged culvert pipes
I
as
have-
part. Oh, I'm sorry, you're not
I
through?
have one more question, yes.
All right, go ahead.
When this is being done, this particular type of piping needs extensive packing all around it, all up. I've done some research on it. And it needs to be very carefully put in because it's only 10% of its strength out. Once it's in the ground properly and packed properly with the proper fill. And I was wondering, is it possible that I could at least be there when this happens? I'm not saying, just to make sure that,
Well, we all have the same exact interest, including especially the owner and his contractors, in having the pipe be installed properly. An improperly installed pipe would not be good in anyone's interest. I guess the assurance we would have with this is the fact that it's being done by licensed contractors who know how it ought to be done. Am I correct?
you think you're going to say no? I mean, I'm sure
Well,
they are, but
The fact is, people have licenses for a
Forgive my
reason.
skepticism.
Anything that's designed well but installed wrongly, it will show up eventually, but we can only require that it be done well. And I guess we will all be watching and looking for whatever feedback there may be.
Will they notify you when it's going to be done? I mean, is that possible that I could at least be around?
Well, I don't know how we can tell with our non-professional eyes how well it's being done. We do have to stay far away enough away to be safe,
Yeah, well, I don't intend to get near it.
but I'm not sure
Watch.
what assurance we can add by being there. I don't know that it will be done any differently whether we're watching or not. I don't know if the engineer has a question or comment.
Well, I'm not sure, the water pipe installation will be inspected by the water department.
That's the water supply.
Water
We're
supply.
talking about the pipes that
And
we
the
have
Yeah, that's why I
for
wanted
the
to just
drainage.
clarify that, yeah.
That has to have special packing and it has to be put in a specific way. I have spoke to Mr. Memo and he seems to be very aware of that, but it just,
Well, it's on the record, and we appreciate that. It's completely true. It has to be done right, and we agree with that. So thank you for bringing that one up. At this point, again, barring further discussion, I'd like to entertain a motion that this particular detail that is going to be written in the order of conditions be approved by this commission. The new specifications for the 18-inch culverts as described here and in the documents provided to the commission, and as also approved by Mr. Delano and Associates. Do I hear such a motion to approve that? So moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining, 400. So this detail, this requirement, this item in the order of conditions has been approved. We'll have to put the paperwork together and I think re-sign it with the amended conditions, and hopefully this will get us where we need to go. I think that as soon as we get that prepared, we'll be in touch and let you know that it's been signed.
All right.
Now, I don't think I'm going to propose that we close the hearing that we have here. We'll simply work on the order of conditions. I don't want to be sure that we've covered everything. But I think that very likely our next meeting, we would be closing the overall hearing.
I'm hoping by my next meeting, I can have everything in, all the conditions, and potentially get.
We will move as quickly as we can to get the documents in your hands. And of course, the amended order of conditions will have to be recorded, as always, in the registry of deeds. And that will guide us going forward, and we look forward to progress, and we look forward to proper installation and success.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We're running a little behind schedule, but
Thank you very
all
much
right.
for all of your patience and your time. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Well, we shall continue to monitor everything, Sean. Thank you.
And you know, I'm just well known. Lori answers the phone, she goes, oh.
Well,
Hi, Amelia.
the public needs to be heard, and we appreciate when they want to be heard. Our next appointment is actually with Mr. Alan Hanson. We're running a little late, but we will move right along to that. This is in regard to, I'm reading the agenda here, filing requirements for paving the fire station driveway at Liberty Street. And so this appointment will commence. Mr. Hanscom, if you could just introduce yourself for the camera.
Al Hanscom, 187 Beach Road, consultant for the town of Hanson,
Thank you.
representing the.
Thank you. What do we have?
Okay, this is the historic wetlands designation, wetlands delineation that was done a little over 3 years ago, by someone by the name of Tom. Now, as you're probably aware, and as I'm aware because I live here, very little has changed in the last 3 or 4 years in this area. What the town has requested us to do is to set contract documents and repave the entire access and parking areas around the Liberty Street fire station. So we are having a couple of areas, this back left-hand corner, full pavement restoration at the aprons accessing Liberty Street. And the rest will be a mill and overlay, including up onto the Cape Cod berms that are around the perimeter. So we really are not looking for a lot of disturbance outside the limits of the pavement itself, but we are looking to put in straw wattles or something that would prevent any runoff of fines during a rainstorm that would occur during that pavement improvement operation.
In other words, erosion control.
So we'll have erosion controls. You can see that there are some outlets here that will be maintained that allow the stormwater runoff to exit the paved surface. But we will be doing minimal over there on the entire surface.
Backing up a little bit, the motivation for doing this is that I assume the pavement that's there has been there for quite some time. We know there's been some projects, I don't know how to describe them all, but the surface is in need of upgrading or repair. Is that correct?
Yeah, the problem with any paved surface is that it deteriorates over time. Cracks, water gets in, freeze-thaw damage. So we're getting to the point where we're starting to get enough cracking that we're concerned about the subbase being disturbed. If it gets to the point where we have to redo the entire subbase, we're talking about, probably a couple $100,000 as opposed to $100,000 to repave this. So we're trying to catch it. We've got its useful life and then some. It's been about 38 years since it was originally installed.
So 38 years has already gone by since repaving happened here.
Correct. So we're looking for a mill and overlay. The town meeting appropriated the funds, so we're looking to get that done by the end of the summer or early fall.
On behalf of the commission, I'll ask, how does the proposed paved area compare to what's already been paved? Is it the same, or is it slightly different in any way?
Exactly the same.
The same.
We're going right up onto the Cape Cod berm, so we'll actually mill right up onto the Cape Cod berms, and then we'll be replacing that. The only difference will be that we're looking for good control over the drainage. So there are some high spots and low spots currently, so that we'll be able to control the depth of asphalt, so that we'll be able to create a positive drainage to the catch basins or the outlet points. Catch basins, I think there are a couple up front. Maybe not.
There's one right there on the street.
That will have a, a silt sack in it, but other than that, there's not a lot to look at through there. And the erosion controls will just be on the perimeter. During wetlands. The question I have is, will the commission accept the delineation that was done slightly more than 3 years ago for the purposes of this? It seems like we're having a minimal impact. And anything that we do in the way of erosion controls would be identical if the wetlands delineation was slightly different in any direction.
I think the question is, does this rise to the level of a new project that would require a new delineation? Or is it simply maintenance of an existing structure, which the project to do was 38 years ago? That's what I think I'm hearing.
Certainly a maintenance project.
It's a maintenance project. I'll look to our agent for any comments or questions or commentary of any kind on this.
No.
In other words, I'm looking for help.
What was the date of this delineation? You said a little over 3 years.
It's November 2013.
This is the septic.
Well, the plan in front of us here shows the septic system, and I think delineation was done anticipating what now has been accomplished, which is this work up here. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Can't imagine the line would have moved so much that it would impact the paved area, but that's just,
Good call.
Well,
Now, if there was going to be work or replacement or improvement up to the sublayer, would it be maintenance? Would that still be considered maintenance, or?
that would be probably much more extensive maintenance than what's being talked about right now. We're trying to protect the integrity of the material under the pavement. Is that right?
that would probably be more of a repair.
Yeah.
There is a portion of the lot back here that we will be pulling off and putting crushed subgrade in this corner.
Repairing the
That's
subgrade
deteriorated.
material.
The asphalt, when it was originally installed, was very thin, it was broken up. So we can sense that there's some subgrade failure here. So we're going to be taking out right about a corner like that size. We're doing the same thing at the aprons. When you have the large fire trucks turning, it puts a lot more stress on the subgrade. So we do have some issues there. So we're going to be replacing the subgrades with those two aprons as well.
I think to sort of your perspective, this is not like our driveways at home. This has large, heavy vehicles on it every day, multiple times, and it's in the public interest to have it in good repair.
Yeah, and I think we're really minimizing the town's cost by taking care of it before it gets to the, full pavement placement stage.
Yeah.
So.
Also, both in terms of what was done 38 years ago, whenever the pavement was done, even the construction of the fire station, a fair amount of this property is within 50 or the 100-foot buffer zone. That's why we're here, because it's our jurisdiction. Just to say the obvious, but to put it on the record.
Who flagged this?
Tom Associates. A couple of us had a role in that, and the idea is to is to simply look at the state requirement for how long a delineation remains in place and whether there's a need to redo it. And actually the question about before this evening is to discuss the filing requirements. So this is a very informal discussion. This isn't the same as filing a notice of intent, and the intention, I would think, is to explore whether we need a notice of intent.
Or an RDA.
Or an RDA, which would be
I
a
have a
useful step.
question for Laurie. Have you seen, are any of the flags still in place?
I have not visited this site in a while, so I don't know that.
Because I was going to say, if they were, then maybe you could look and see whether you thought it was sufficient.
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah, a different organization, should flagging be required, or a checklist there, certainly should do that work.
I mean, I don't want to make it hard, but it is 6 months expired as far as
Yeah.
the
What we
delineation
need to
is
do
concerned.
is-
You are gonna be digging up in that corner.
Yeah, what we need to do is make sure we look at this the way we look at it if it were not the town of Lyme. We need
No, I
to be fair
understand.
across, and that's
And
fine.
I'm
We all
looking at the
understand.
elevations and stuff here too, because the general slope of the land goes down there.
Yeah.
because I have seen that,
And you can see the runoff at that, he's run
but, right.
here, you can see.
And it
there's running
slants this way also.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at this, again, this was the plan for the sewage system repair, and it was a 2016 project. That's the sewage repair. The delineation was done longer ago than that, right? That's what you were
Yeah,
saying.
see,
Yeah,
just to clarify.
I mean,
The reason it was done earlier.
6 months isn't a lot, but I'm just, just.
Well, I think
curious.
from a practical standpoint, that one.
I don't think
hasn't
anything's changed there,
Any
because
substantial amount.
I don't believe there has been any construction of anything nearby there.
And the, like I said before, we're gonna do the same rate controls now as we did with 6
Yeah.
inches, 6 feet, the same measure.
Well, I think it would be good to, I think it would be appropriate to have the wetlands line at least checked again. It's again, what we require of any applicant because of the time that's gone by. The manner of doing that, it would be, my first choice would be to have our agent look at it at your earliest convenience, because that would be independent of any other person who did the work before, and it would tell us, again, whether the flags are still visible, et cetera. In the meantime, I think that based on what we find from that, maybe an RDA and an ANRAD would be appropriate. In other words, to determine whether there's still confidence in that line, and then fairly promptly proceed to the next step.
I mean, the RDA is fairly straightforward for us to file.
Yeah.
And we would actually set forth the erosion controls that we proposed to.
So I think we would, Laurie, look for you as agent to check the conditions out there, see if you believe they still are accurate. It might be the most timely way to see if we have confidence this line is still there. I think our confidence is high, but we need to confirm that confidence. In the meantime, maybe Mr. Hanson could provide us with not just a verbal, but a simple written plan of.
As part of
what's
the
intended.
idea.
Yes, as part of the
Yeah,
idea.
or something.
So if you
Including
two
the
could
plan.
collaborate with that.
Including a plan that will show our proposed erosion control measures, and then you could condition your RDA on possibility.
How far in jurisdiction are you proposing the work?
I'll let you look at it more closely. The 50-foot is this dotted line here, and the 100-foot is here in the building. But the 50-foot encompasses several spots where with
Just
quite a
so
bit
we
of
know where
pavement.
I'm looking.
Yeah,
You're welcome to keep
okay.
Good. I'm gonna read it.
Well,
I could probably get it possibly Thursday morning, if worst case scenario, I could hit it Monday.
that. Just let me know, and if there's any big issue, we can get a wetlands consultant in to do it.
do we feel that the consensus is fine on this, or do we need to take a vote? This is just an informal discussion.
I think it's gonna end up being fine. I don't have concerns really that the wetland line has moved.
Well, why don't we?
I think an RDA would be appropriate.
Yeah. I think I'd like to entertain a motion to have the agent and Mr. Hanscom collaborate to have an RDA prepared for us with the erosion control information and the plans for the project. And I would think we would be looking to do this expeditiously, but I entertain a motion to do that. Do I hear such a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Again, we're just being thorough. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, 4-0. We have a plan to do it, and we look forward to accomplishing your goal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving ahead, again, apologies for the delays, we have a next appointment. This is a continued notice of intent, construction of a 20 by 20 foot shed slash stable and horse corral with adjustable panels at 122 Indian Head Street. This is for Mr. Keith Boyle, 122 Indian Head Street, DEP file number SE 1750683. So again, it's a continuation of a hearing that we opened in the past. I would like to open the floor to Mr. Boyle, if you'd like to officially introduce yourself for the record with
Keith Boyle,
122 Indian Head Street?
Street 144.
144, okay. Thank you for that correction.
122 is what the project is.
Okay.
Can I make my way to the table as well?
Oh, if anyone needs to see, please feel free to look over shoulders, but the commission will look most closely, and then any other questions can be answered as well.
So this is the exact same plan that was shown 2 weeks ago, at the last meeting, prepared by land planning. Barry was the one who came out and did the site visit. Since last meeting, we had a discussion regarding a possible berm on the property, which I've drawn up here. It's not on the plan yet because he's going to do it once we move forward.
Once you know what the details are that will be required.
Correct, and I talked to Gary, he said that he would write up a detail on here like he did before with all the plans and
It would
measurements and stuff
specify
that-
exactly what was going to be done.
Exactly what's going to be done on the project, yep. So I basically just sketched this out, which basically is a zoom in of right here. The berm, it's a 3 feet wide berm. The berm would be, give or take, this section from here to approximately where the end of the leach field is give or take 160 feet. Plus or minus, it might be 150, but it's in that range, so I said approximately 160 feet. The berm height would be 18 to 24 inches high. And the berm would be constructed 10 feet beyond the flags, which are here.
In other
So-
words, 10 feet upslope of
Towards
the
my property,
flagged
yeah.
resource area.
Correct, yep. My idea for the berm would have, and I talked to Laurie a little bit today, would include between 10 and 20, possibly even more, low bush blueberry shrubs. Those shrubs, I've been advised to plant, they should be about 6 to 12 inches tall, and they should be planted in clumps, give or take 10 to 20 feet apart from each other. I talked to Laurie, and I think she had talked to you earlier, about,
Excuse me, just gotta
oh, sure.
flip the tape over.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
That's right. I discussed with Laurie about some seed, some wetland seed, or it's actually upland seed for a wetland area, which the company I deal with on the cranberry bog side does provide a mixture like that. It's an Agway conservation mixture. A 25-pound bag, which is relatively expensive. It covers about 12,000 square feet. The project size in square footage is about 500 square feet. of that
The
berm.
berm area is, you say approximately 500 square.
Yeah.
Would you be doing any seeding in other areas?
Well, I'm
or-
gonna have a lot of extra seed, so I'd probably,
It would just, if you bought 25 pounds,
Right.
I would what you would the other 24
Yeah,
pounds.
exactly. I mean, whether I reseed if stuff didn't take, or, you
Put it,
know.
put it where the mice can't get it.
Yeah, right. Or if I, like I said, if I spread it out further on the property, reseed it down the road if stuff doesn't take. If I can buy it in a smaller quantity, I will, but they said they sell in 25-pound bags.
What we would like to see, I think, not to interrupt, I apologize, but is the description of the species makeup of that seed mix.
Sure.
Because again, people usually
Yeah,
provide
yeah,
that.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yep, I can definitely get
What
that to
else?
you.
What's your seed?
I had asked if I could plant Rebecca. I have a bunch of Rebecca on my property. It grows very well. I was
It's
wondering.
black-eyed Susan.
Black-eyed Susan, correct. I'm looking to plant that in between to offset the blueberry shrubs. I also have a couple other tall bush blueberry shrubs on my property. I was wondering if I could put them in that berm. If not, it's not a major deal, but I have them, so. The other thing I discussed would be the addition of several birdhouses. I already have several on the property. I would like to add more birdhouses. Preferably, we have a lot of swallows in the
Sure.
area, so just to give them a house that help with some insects and stuff like that, some other mosquitoes.
We've seen a lot of success with houses that would accommodate either bluebirds or tree swallows.
Okay.
We have a lot of tree swallows in this area.
Yep.
I know we had an Eagle Scout do a project in the county hospital fields, and you see a lot of tree swallows in those houses, so that's perhaps a way to go. Anything else?
Let's see, the other question I had is on the berm, we had the berm flaring at the end.
Mhm.
I was wondering on these flares, what the possibility would be to either add some sort of maybe rhododendron, arborvitae, something that's going to create a little bit of privacy for the house back here, a little bit of privacy for the house up here.
Now, something with height and with, both of those are evergreen, so.
Correct. And one of them has flowers. I have bees on site, so most of the plants I'm trying to plant would have, pollination.
So
effects.
pollinators would be attracted and.
Again, yep, that would be agreed with. The other questions would be on the plan, and again, it would depend on financially what, the material ends up all costing, would be, again, the addition of possible arborvitaes, which I talked about, Amelanchier, which I would like to plant on the berm, which is the downy serviceberry, which is common, it's native to the area.
Talking shrub.
Shrub, yeah, just to give it some height, because everything's low.
Right. To comment, and again, and I don't know if I'm interrupting, I'm sorry if I do. The idea would be to have a grass seed that would stabilize the
Correct.
surface
Yep.
of the berm, and to have shrubs, either small or in some cases taller, to further stabilize, but also to provide some visual interest with
Right.
other characters and sense of visual
Yes.
barriers.
Yeah,
so
and
to
also
speak.
create, pollination for the bees and stuff, on site. So again, the bottom, I know that Agway mix, he said, was mainly a lot of perennial rye and annual rye, so that's the main grass that's
So
gonna
it's just,
grow.
it's just grass, as opposed to.
Most of it's grasses, yeah,
Just rye
several
grass,
different
yeah.
grasses, yeah, but it's not strictly just rye.
Yeah. Well,
I
comments,
have
questions?
one other question.
Mhm.
You had said that the fences are going to be movable.
They are like portable, which is why.
Right, so you could change the
Yeah,
configuration, whatever.
yeah.
Is it possible you could show on the plan somewhere the extent, how far you would take those?
Yeah, I
Now,
think
you
I
want
did
me
that in the
to
last.
redraw the plan when you have
Right,
plan
we
planning?
need to know how far you might
Yeah,
take
and
them,
that's fine, I can draw
so
it
they
on
don't
there.
wind up in front of your house.
Yeah, no, it can go, I really can't go any further
But
than my septic.
what they should
system.
be is within a given area.
So I can have them
That's
dot the line?
That would be great, because it would show us the maximum extent
A
of the area
maximum
that we
extent, that's what
impact.
I'm
Okay.
trying to say.
Even if it wasn't in that whole area all the time.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
fine.
half of it here, and next month half of it in the other.
Yeah.
But you know where they will wind up being in this given spot, so
That's
that they're
fine.
not.
Yep. And just to give you a visual right now, that area would basically be, here's my septic leaching field,
Mhm.
here's the proposed stable, so it's basically gonna be here to here.
Mhm.
That's about all it could be.
And that should be noted on the plan.
Yep, and that's
The
fine.
fence will not extend beyond blah, blah, blah.
Right, that's fine.
Okay.
And to reiterate, even though it goes a little bit back to our last portion of this hearing, you had had some communication with the Board of Health about
Yeah.
managing the horse manure.
Manure, yeah, with lime and.
And there was a specific set of guidelines they gave you for that.
Correct.
Which is separate from what we're discussing, but just so we know we're
Yep.
moving ahead in concert with
Yep.
those requirements. I will say this about the vegetation plan, it's, again, I think the goal is to stabilize the berm so that when all is said and done, it will stay in place for a long, long time, and to also have the other characteristics, the visual and the biological functions there. One thing about arborvitae is deer love it,
Mhm.
so I'd like to be prepared to defend it against the deer.
Believe it or not, I have not seen a lot of deer on the property. I know that they're on the wooded side over here.
Have you planted any other arborvitae?
There are arborvitae on the property, yeah.
Okay, well-
And they're not defoliated yet.
Because if you go down the street and look at people's hedges,
Right,
about
I've seen
5 or
them.
6 feet up, they'll suddenly get wider.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, just so we
And
all
I know
know.
there's deer-resistant varieties now too, but.
Just throwing that out there. Because what we want to do is see it not only plant, but also succeed. You know,
Right.
To actually take
Exactly.
root and succeed over
Yeah, if they
growing
were small, the
seasons.
deer might just take them out.
Right.
But all the seeds for that matter. as far as the bird houses go, again, our experience and our combined knowledge of how these things go is, bird houses are pretty much always a good thing. It's, of course, you probably don't want to fill up with English sparrows, that's a species that eat seeds, not mosquitoes. But tree swallows and those sorts of things can be helpful. You say you have other bird houses on the property, so whatever
Most
augments.
of them are swallows.
Yeah, well, another family or two of swallows wouldn't be a bad thing, right? And as far as I'm concerned, it would be okay to put that birdhouse anywhere you want on the property.
Is there a possibility, I was gonna have, I would like several of them. I'm asking the board how many, can I have 5 to 10? Can I have 2? Can I-
Biologically, 2 might be the most you'd want to bother with, because if you have 2 sparrow families too close together, one of them's going to move out, or swallow families, I should
Okay.
say. However, the more you want to stall, the better. I mean,
Okay.
if you want to have something at this end of the property, and one at this end, but we're not going to, I don't think we're setting housing standards
Yeah.
for the birds, but we would not be against more, we just want to make you not have.
No, that's, I mean, we make them.
Spend money on empty houses.
At my school, I work at the VOTEC, we make the birdhouses all the time, so
Okay.
I have them written, available to.
Well, I think what we would do is we would support well-designed, well-constructed, and well-installed birdhouses as
Okay.
you described.
Yep.
We just don't want it close together.
We just want you
Because the
to-
birds will fight.
We just wanted to have it be a happy neighborhood for the birds as well as people.
Sure.
Okay, while we consider what you thought, I'd like to open this up to comments from others, members of the public. Questions, comments? And again, name and address for the
Yep.
camera.
My name is Christy Griffin, I live at 92 Indian Head Street. I apologize that I was not here at the last meeting.
Sure.
I did not get, the letter was not addressed to me, so therefore I didn't see it. My biggest concern, I do not have problems with animals, I love horses. My biggest concern is, and I didn't get a chance to review any minutes from the meeting that I was not at, but I did hear that there was a manure
Management plan.
management plan. I didn't know how to
Let's just call it that.
verbalize that. My bigger concern about that is just research that I have done on horses, and from being around horses since a young age, I understand there is a lot. My question that I was going to propose is to see if the manure could be removed sooner than every 14 days.
Well, maybe what we'll do is let Mr. Boyle reiterate what the Board of Health advised him to do, and what I believe you agreed to do. And
Exactly, and
we'll pick up the discussion from there.
And I apologize for not
No,
being here for that meeting. I
It's understandable.
didn't have the information, so.
Per the board's regulations, it is to be removed every 6 months.
Per the Board of Health.
Per the, on their horse regulations, every 6 months, manure is to be removed off the property. The regulations are right online. I have gone with every 2 weeks because I don't want it on the property. Most people probably aren't in a unique situation as of mine. That's why we have proposed and put it in writing every 2 weeks. Now, that doesn't mean we couldn't potentially do it every week or every other, but I never want to go more than 2 weeks, but I can't guarantee what if I went out, and forgot to do it that Friday and got slammed because it was 8 days, not 7 days.
We should also say the method of containing this would be, and I'll let you put it in your words.
Yes, it was a dump trailer. The dump trailer, size-wise, I'm not sure exactly the size because I haven't bought it yet, but it will have 4 closable sides on it with a top over the top.
As opposed to a pile on the ground.
Correct, so it's not going to be leaching it.
So you'd be removing it from wherever
Yeah.
it appears.
Right, and I would be
Into this,
into the trailer, which would hold it, and then every 2 weeks, the trailer would be dumped. I have already contacted Ritter, their old farm, their dumping grounds over behind Tri-Town in East Bridgewater.
East
They take-
Bridgewater?
Yeah, they take manure.
they probably have a composting
They
operation
do have a
there.
composting operation, yep.
And I know across the land, people often do that.
Yep, and
Okay.
they take several other people's manure,
But we hear your concern about the frequency, and
And that,
all we can
and
say
that's
is.
fine. I did,
here
like
it
I
is.
said, I didn't have the opportunity to do a lot of research in the past. I've been sick.
Yeah.
And like I said, I wasn't at that meeting. The other meetings that we that we had been invited to were about the upland.
Yes.
Oh, that was
naming-
the adjacent property. Yeah.
Correct, and I didn't realize that the horse stable was gonna be discussed at those meetings, otherwise I would have attended those, because I didn't have a problem with the upland.
It's been a busy summer.
So-
There might be one other thing to say about fly control methods.
Yeah, the fly control, so there's fly control spray, which would be used daily, and then there is a parasite, which I don't know the exact name of it, it's in the manure plan, that actually you put in the manure, and it basically kills off the flies.
Fly larvae.
Yes, yeah, so it attacks the fly larvae before they hatch,
What do those develop into? It's-
flies.
They develop into
Yeah,
flies.
so the fly
themselves.
larvae is a maggot essentially that turns into a fly.
Right, which, the many varieties of which we all
Right.
have seen.
Right, and that was also the proposal with the birdhouses, they may help a little bit. The parasite would definitely help, and then the fly spray itself would help.
Okay. I know there's another question, maybe we'd like to hear that. Again, just, I'm sorry, the name and address for the record.
Melissa Sullivan, 86 Union Head Street.
Okay.
Two questions. So if the parasite heat that you're going to put in there,
Yes.
if it's not enough, you can always add more?
Yeah, it comes like a
It's kind
packet.
of a thing that you can adjust if
Yeah, so
needed?
the company that actually does it per horse, and they send you a monthly supply.
Okay, but if you needed
So
more
obviously
or
I'll take
less,
that one monthly supply and divide it into the 2 times I dump the trailer.
and if there was an issue with flies, we could
Yeah,
always add
we
more.
address it.
It would certainly come up. And another question?
The other question would be, and it's not really a conservation question, it's
Oh.
where are you going to keep the manure in the?
In the trailer?
In the trailer.
It would be relatively close, the exact spot, and it depends on where the actual panels go up, but it's gonna be in that general stable area.
Probably close to where you could connect it to a vehicle.
Right, I got
Would
back my truck
minimize
up
the
to it.
labor and
Correct.
all that.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I think what we've heard is some proposals regarding the berm itself. Oh, something we didn't say is erosion control. During construction and during the establishment of the berm, there would be, did we agree on straw at the last time? There would be a series of straw bales down slope from this to make sure that there was no
Yeah,
erosion
we had
from
talked
that.
about that. I wasn't sure, when I talked to Laura this morning, we weren't sure if with doing the berm we needed it, but if you want, if.
Well,
that's
the
what
berm will start out as bare soil.
Correct, so you're
And
gonna need
that would,
something to-
if we have a big storm the next day, you might
It might wash up.
wash out into,
That's
the
fine.
reason. What I'm feeling we have is a lot of proposed information, and either you have, or I'm sure you will, provide this in writing to the office,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
somehow
I can
agree on
email it,
it.
I'll email it.
And any questions about what's proposed? There's some details here that seem pretty responsive. Again, we want to know the species of grass in the conservation mix, but any other things we want to know?
This is, I thought I had.
Yes, that's fine. I'll read it just for the record. Conservation green is an exclusive agrimixture suitable for covering slopes and tough areas quickly. Blend of perennial ryegrasses ensures rapid growth, holds soil in place while shade tolerant red fescue and Kentucky bluegrass germinate. White clover, which is a flowering, adds durability to this quick cover mix. Tolerates full sun to medium shade, quick and easy to establish, excellent for soil erosion control or hard to grow areas. It's 5% white clover. 150-pound bag covers 25,000 square feet, which is considerably larger than this. That's probably just how it comes.
Yeah, I think it usually comes in a 50-pound bag,
Yeah.
but he said that he could get it in a 25-pound
Yeah.
bag.
Okay. Well, we're in the midst of a notice of intent hearing. I think what we would like is to have, again, confirmation of the details in writing, and that may have been accomplished, but we'd like it to be on the plan, including a dotted line for that. So I think what we should do is continue this, probably one more meeting. That would give you and land planning plenty of time to
Sure.
put those things on the plan. And I would say, put the vegetation details as a comment box on the
Okay.
plan. I think that way it's captured for all of us,
Sure.
for the benefit of everyone who's looking at this now and in the future.
I had one more question. So when I had
Sure.
talked to Gary over at Land Planning, he was going to create the vegetation box, explaining all of the stuff that would be in there, like you just mentioned.
Which
Is
you and
what-
he can talk about, because I don't know if there's any comments or questions, but it seems like that's appropriate.
Vegetation sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, so his question was, does he have to draw the berm on there?
I think it's one of the most important things he could show.
So draw it on, okay.
Yeah.
But does he have to show all the little plants on the berm? Or can he just explain that in the berm is gonna consist of? Because the more detailed, the more money, the more time.
Well, you indicated a desire to put certain shrubs in certain places.
Yeah.
If you want him to do that, you should be sure that everyone understands.
Yeah.
Great. But anything that's not a good-sized shrub, to me, it's less urgent to show where it is, because the grass would be over the whole thing. The blueberries would be spread along, clustered along the whole
Correct.
thing, and probably the rudbeckia as well.
Correct.
I would say, show the shrubs,
Okay,
because that way, if someone does it for you, you could probably do it yourself, but everyone can see that the plan was followed.
right.
Yeah. But putting a couple little star things where the shrubs go probably isn't gonna be
Isn't
too
gonna
much
be,
effort. He
yeah,
does
no,
it-
I just knew drawing the whole berm and trying to figure out the, no.
As tedious as it might seem, again, that's a very important thing, because we spoke a long time about trying to keep manure and nitrogen, et cetera, from getting into the canal next to you. And
Yep.
that's pretty much our main defense.
Correct.
And so it will be our ticket to satisfaction. So
I've had all my questions answered.
shall we have a motion to continue this hearing to the next meeting? We'll set the time and dates, time specific, to enable Mr. Boyle and Land Planning to provide us with the final plan.
Next meeting's on August 15th.
August which?
15th.
It's not August 9th?
No, the one I have on my schedule is the 15th.
I mean, the 8th? August 1st is a Tuesday, right?
With the second and fourth meetings
The
of
second, the second one would be August 8th, right?
No, I have a calendar
The 15th would be the third Tuesday of the month, which is not what we usually do.
Oh, that's right, the first is on a Tuesday, so, but she still has us down for the 15th.
Well,
but if you
that's a
wanna do
problem.
the
I'm on
8th,
vacation myself.
You can change it to the 8th, there's nothing coming that,
Selfishly, I prefer the 8th, looking around.
I don't have a problem.
So I entertain a motion to continue this to our next meeting, which would be August 8th. Just to be safe, let's say, what, 7:15?
Yeah, let's start with that.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to continue as described. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining, 400. Solid progress. The details will be before us at that meeting, and maybe we'll be at where we need to be.
Great. Now, do you guys need the plan in hand before the meeting, or is the meeting fine?
No, but if you could have Gary email it to me, when
Yeah,
he
that's
has
fine.
the PDF.
Sure.
That'll do. We don't need to rush a hard copy here,
Okay.
but we'll get it in the office,
Yeah.
and then you just bring a hard copy with you.
Okay, so basically, he'll just take my notes and I just present them in front of you guys, put it in his technical words on
Right,
the sheet.
right,
and then
because
create the-
that's the way to make sure we don't lose the
And
details.
that's, yep, perfect. Okay, just so we're on the same page.
Yeah. All righty.
All right, thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Walker. We do have a couple other things to do. We need to, if they're available, we can look at the minutes of July 11th.
Did I give them to you?
I don't know that we have them in our last. Have we seen them?
Thought I printed them, I checked the printed in.
Okay. While we're doing that, I actually think, because there's been probably at least one reappointment to the board since our last, since June.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Board. We need to, I think, reorganize it as expected of us. Unfortunately, Ms. Audette is not here, she's in clerk, but I entertain anybody's thoughts on reorganization. Searching the floor. Well, the clerk normally reads the things that I read, like the hearing notices and those sorts of official things. Also, I think boards are just expected to have clerks. But they also have chairs and vice chairs. I leave the discussion to the other members of the commission, and we'll, whatever we feel we should do. any nominations, I should say,
Yeah.
for the foreseeable future, for chair, vice chair, and clerk for this commission. We know that I have been the chair, Mr. Andrews has been the vice chair, and Brenner has been the clerk. But to reorganize, we need to have a motion to reorganize and to fill those positions.
Do we have to nominate each position even if?
I think we could do,
nothing?
one slate, and changing, unless we make a change, it's very easy, but I think we should simply have one motion for all positions. That's how I've seen it done in other situations.
So,
Well, fill in the names and blanks.
okay.
Chair, vice
Chair
chair,
will be Phil Clemens, vice chair will be Paul. Whoever.
Gunnar, Odette. I think I hear you on that. Do I hear a second to that?
I'll second that.
Discussion. So, if there's a significant problem, for example, Ms. Odette having an issue with this, we can readdress it. But the motion is on the floor, it's been seconded. Unless there's any further discussion, we can move to the vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining, 4-0-0. We stand reorganized, and we'll certainly check with Ms. Odette at the next opportunity. So that's been done. There's a couple of things to talk about, but I think rather than wait any longer, we actually have a presentation that our summer intern, Emily Murad, has for us. You've been very patiently waiting. And while you're getting that set up, I'm going to close this door most of the way so that we don't have anyone blunder into the right meeting. And we're going to project right here. Hopefully that will show, and if it doesn't show clearly enough, what we hope to do is post this presentation on the town website. If I turn the lights off, will there be enough light?
I think so.
So, the floor is yours, Emily.
Okay. We'll project for a second there.
Of course, the technology has to catch up with us. Is we'll let our eyes adjust.
Apologize for having to talk to your backs, but so I can deal with the
I wouldn't be able to see,
controls.
sorry.
Okay.
All right, sorry, nothing new things. So as Bill introduced, I'm Emily Murad, and I have been interning for the summer with the commission, helping out with some different projects. So I just have a little summary to explain what I have been doing this summer. So as a little bit of introduction and background about me, I live here in Hanson, but I go to school in Maine at the University of New England. I'm studying environmental studies, and I have 2 minors, one in climate change and one in sociology. So this internship is a perfect fit for that. And as a requirement of my major, I have to complete an internship for credit. So the goals of that program through the school are just to gain experience in whatever field that the student is potentially going into, and to work with an organization and better understand how that organization fits the community through working there, training, different assignments and evaluations and things like that. And also I am receiving academic class credit from my school. So we had 3 main projects that we've been working on so far this summer. One is trail maps that we created for a few of the different conservation properties in town to help people to use them easily and in the right ways, and to be able to enjoy those properties. The second project we've been working on is a turtle study, in which we were documenting roadkill occurrences and different mortalities to hopefully reduce the numbers of mortalities and to keep turtles safe and humans safe as well. And then the third project we've been working on is monitoring the water level and the surrounding ecosystem of the Fawn Pond. So our first main project, as I said, was the trail maps, and I have a few small images of examples of them down there, and I'll show more in-depth pictures just in a minute. But the need for the maps was identified through the open space plan, for a survey that was a part of that, which I was not actually a part of that, it was before I was here, but that survey identified that people in the town wanted areas where they could just hike and walk, and wanted those areas to be easily accessible, and be able to like navigate those areas. So hopefully that's what we have accomplished with these maps. They are formal but easily accessible and hopefully easily understandable for people even if they haven't had much experience with hiking at all or reading maps or anything like that. So one of the first properties that we made the maps for was Smitty's Bog. And we created 2 different trail loops there, a northern and a southern loop, one a little bit smaller than the other. And we also included on all of the maps wherever the Bay Circuit Trail cut through the properties, so that if people were passing through and wanted to use that trail, they would be able to use this map to help them with that as well. And I just have a couple of pictures of that property, some other things that have been going on there throughout the summer. We had this sign that Bill actually installed a few months ago, and unfortunately it's already been torn down by somebody who probably did have a motorized vehicle, which we were trying to prevent them from using in a way that they're not really allowed to. But we have some other management things, some boulders that have been placed to try and block off the roads where we want to discourage traffic from driving. A couple other pictures of that. And then a second location that we created trail maps for was on the old Plymouth County Hospital site, which we decided to name this the Last Meadows as kind of a representation of the agricultural history that site has, and that this is some of the last remaining big open meadows that we have in Hanson. So this map is a little different than the others because it has future and existing trails. So we laid out the trails that currently are there, and then also some proposed trails that hopefully will be extended and rearranged a little bit in the future. And I just have a picture here of me marking some of our trails at that site. And our third one is the Veterans Memorial Town Forest, which was just one big simple loop of the Bay Circuit Trail that goes around the perimeter of the site. And this is a good one for people to hopefully utilize because it's a pretty short walk and it's right by the baseball field and the elementary school, so it's really accessible for places that people hopefully are already utilizing. And a few pictures from that site as well. On the left, we have a bird feeder that was installed a few years ago by an Eagle Scout project. And then on the right, a view of Wampatuck Pond from one of the campsites that's in the forest called Tupelo Point. So our second project after the maps was our turtle study. And the project was based on a Linking Landscapes program, which is a program that's put on by a combination of different organizations, Mass DOT, Mass Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, and also UMass have paired up to create a kind of standardized way that anybody can volunteer and monitor the roadkill occurrences of turtles, to have it all in a standardized way, and to hopefully reduce collisions in the future. So we had 2 study sites that we looked at. One was on Indian Head Street, near where the Indian Head Brook culvert goes under the road. And then the other site was on McQuon Street at a wetland that's under conservation management. So the results from those 2 sites, on Indian Head Street, we had a total of 20 mortalities that we found during the month of June, all of which were painted turtles. And then on McQuon Street, we actually didn't find any turtles at all. So one of our kind of hypotheses as to why there's such a variation there Indian Head Street is a little bit of a more heavily trafficked area, so that probably was a factor. But also, there are sidewalks on Indian Head Street, and there are not any on McQuon Street. And the type of sidewalk that exists on Indian Head Street has a kind of a steep ledge for little small turtles, difficult to climb over. So that probably contributed to some of the unfortunate mortalities and roadkill occurrences. And then we have a picture which is not all that pleasant to look at, but shows the variety of the different ages and sizes of the turtles that we found. All the little tiny hatchling all the way up to the larger one. And then our third project, which was monitoring the water level at McQuon Pond. As we all know, it's definitely a very utilized area in the town, and so this was done to hopefully eliminate any confusion that was surrounding what the actual pond water level is. According to USGS topo maps, the level of the pond is 74 feet above the sea level. So we had, this gauge was installed by our consulting engineer in December, and then we started recording data this summer weekly with photos and tabulations. And the results to date, we have found that there's not a crazy range of levels. It's been between 73.75 and 73.9. I actually have a graph here to visually show that. So all of the blue bars is the data that's been collected just in the past couple of months, and as you can see, it has fluctuated a little bit from evaporation and rainfall and things like that, but it's stayed pretty consistent, especially compared to the black first bar, which shows in December of 2016, when there were drought conditions, the water level was way down at 70 feet, which obviously is much lower than the normal level reported by the USGS maps and the levels that we are seeing now. So hopefully this project will continue to check in, and we'll have more data eventually for that. And then I have a couple of pictures of the surrounding ecosystem there, because as we all know, just the pond isn't just the water, it's the whole ecosystem around it is all important to monitor and to protect. So on the left, there actually is a damselfly. It's very hard to see, it's kind of blurry, but there on that leaf, the little blue one. And then we have a nice picture of some lady slippers there as well that are on the steep slope heading down behind the lodge at Camp Kwame, down where we were monitoring the water levels. And so in summary, just a little recap of our projects. We had the trail maps that hopefully people will pretty soon will be able to use. We hopefully will have those printed up soon, and people will be able to get out and enjoy those properties. And then the turtle study, which the data that we collected could hopefully be used in the future if there are any road construction projects. They might be able to take this into account before or during the planning of those. And then lastly, monitoring the water level and just keeping tabs on that ecosystem there. And last but definitely not least, I just want to say thank you to the whole commission for hosting me for the summer, and to Phil and Laurie and Becky for all their help. All these things definitely wasn't just me, it was all a team effort. And I really learned a lot and really enjoyed being here this summer. So thank you.
Thank you. Round of applause, Larry. My understanding is, Emily, you weren't the first intern the commission's ever had, but you're the first one in a very long time. And the cost of your labors here to the town was zero.
Yeah.
Because it was all voluntary. But we do hope it was beneficial to you.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm sure the school will agree.
Yeah.
And some of these things we've been trying to get around to for quite a while. So I think my hope and feeling is that there'll be some good benefits from this, and we appreciate the efforts. And, again, if it's feasible, Laurie, you and Becky can talk about this, it'd be nice to have this presentation and then linked to the town website, because
Yeah, I think
this might
so.
not have been very clear, but we would like both the photos and the information to be clear and available to the public.
Most definitely, Becky would put that on there for you.
Yeah.
How long do we have you?
Just 2 more weeks, finishing up this week, and then the next week will be my last one.
We're gonna miss you.
I'll miss being here.
Now, what is your thoughts for moving forward with your career?
I'm not really sure. I am thinking about maybe going into teaching like we've talked about.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm still haven't officially decided, but I'm thinking maybe like high school science, possibly taking a little bit of time off and then going to grad school for that.
You should talk to Laura Bianchi, who is a
Yeah,
recently
yeah.
retired high school science
Yeah.
teacher from this area. One thing perhaps you consider is remaining in the area and Sandra being on the Conservation Commission,
Yeah.
maybe chairing it, so the rest of us can retire.
Next
Thank
generation
you.
coming up.
Thank you very much. That's a couple other things to do here.
I've got some things to sign.
Yeah, before we get to the signing, we know that as a management task, we have the perimeter conservation area, which last year we had the goatscaping done on. We tried to, and did do a good job of initially controlling the poison ivy. We have right now a community preservation funded project to continue cleaning up the front of the property such that it will become more accessible and more pleasant and more inviting to the public with additional signage, an improved pathway, and improved vegetation control. The project calls for $2,000 of conservation fund input and $8,000 of CPC funds. But the next step for this is year 2 of poison ivy control. We obtained a couple of quotes. One is to, let's say we wanted to bring the goats back for a very focused area to hit those same spots again. We also thought, well, what if there was a way to maybe achieve non-goat, non-chemical control? And, well, we actually, the goat price, they went up a little bit. This year, it's $650 a week for a team of 4 goats. Last year, I think it was $600. The cost of manually controlling the poison ivy, I didn't realize people would do this, but we found a website and we got a quote in it. It's approximately $14,000 to person to hand uproot things. We thought that made the price of goats at $650 seem, even though it's a little bit apples and oranges, it still seemed much more appealing. And we think that if whatever isn't controlled by the goats, we'll do it some other way, maybe with a consumer product that would control, or with a vinegar and Epsom salt and detergent mix that would be, that we could experiment with, but as recommended. But in order to expeditiously knock back the poison ivy to allow other work this summer, we have an opportunity, if we should so decide, to rehire the goatscaping company. And again, they gave us a quote of $650, which I think within a month or so they could accomplish. This would be for the ½ acre of frontage along the road between the parking area and the river. Thoughts about that? Questions about that?
Are you hiring them for 1 month or 1 week?
1 week.
I thought that's pretty separate, isn't it?
We know how fast they eat. Last year, we moved their fence 3 times. This year, we probably would not move it at all. We're just trying to focus on that one front area. We want them to eat more poison ivy. And the other things that they ate last year have kind of stayed eaten. The poison ivy, not surprisingly, needs another attack. So,
Sounds good to me.
Why don't we get our own goats?
well, if one of the commission members wishes to be the official goat herder, then I think it would be great. I'm not sure we're ready for that kind of commitment.
Come on, Bill, you can do it.
However,
Have a nice run.
if one had a goat or 2 that one could walk around, a little bit like a dog on a leash, and take it to where you wanted to control the vegetation, stranger things have been proposed. But right now, we have a quote from the goatscaping company for $650. And because we have a small bucket of CPC money that would need to be spent after we do some more control here, I think the responsibility is before us to do something. Do I hear a motion to hire the goatscaping company at $650 to do year 2 of poison ivy control. Do I hear such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second, yeah.
Everyone wants to second it. Further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining, 400. We will commence year 2 of control with our friends, the goats. And again, that should take place sometime during August, I believe. There was a little bit of lead time there. And also, just so we know, the next phase would be to do some controlling of other undesirable vegetation. There's some, let's call them junk trees, or trees that need to be limbed up to make it more park-like and inviting. We're getting a quote or 2 or 3, whatever, from some local arborist type companies, and we'll see how that comes out, but one step at a time. I know the Community Preservation Committee was asking about this, and we said we were getting quotes for the first few steps, and this would be that, so thank you. And another separate item, and we've got that recorded, right? That quote. Because we've made maps of trails now, it would be very good for people to go there to actually see a little bit of signage along those trails. It won't be that much work or that much expense, but it will be above zero to accomplish that. What I would propose is that the commission vote to spend some number, perhaps up to a maximum of $200 for posts and signage, because there are some very easily available, like not much money on a per each basis, supply of hiking logos that would be put on posts or on trees. Plus you need fasteners like aluminum nails, and maybe a few posts where there weren't trees. In order to get that material, though, we have to agree to buy it.
What about kids?
We actually have a kiosk at the county hospital property, and I have another comment about that too. That actually was purchased by the Bay Circuit Alliance because it already is on the route of the Bay Circuit Trail, which goes along High Street, but it's also meant for other trail information. And so that kiosk exists. We would just need to put a map on it and so on. We also have a kiosk in existence at the town forest. And separate from our budget, there is one kiosk at Kiwanee that is partly for Smitty's Bog, but the company that donated Smitty's Bog to us has agreed to pay for a kiosk there. So kiosks, I think, are well covered, but the less expensive part, some extra posts and signs, based on the figures we've seen, maybe I should be a little more, I'm sorry, pessimistic, maybe say $300, because when you buy things, you don't want to be a few dollars short. My sense is $300 worth of posts and hiking labels would keep us in, keep us up to date with the maps.
Oh, the other thing we were gonna purchase was the folders for the maps.
Oh, that's right too. And the motion would be not just for the signs and posts, but also for actually the maps themselves and the map dispensers. You can help me perhaps with the map numbers, because this all is going to control them. But there are some simple plastic with lids to keep the weather out, brochure dispensers, because the maps that we would produce, and you can help me with the figures, we would probably get, I don't know, a couple of maybe, I don't know how many of each, whatever the
We
quantity.
ordered 300 of just one map.
To start with, to see if we like the product.
And they were like 148 and change, I want to say.
Yeah.
I haven't got them yet though.
So why don't we say to order that, for that initial map order and succeeding ones, if it's 148, that actually would be like $450 right there.
You don't have to tie yourself into a dollar amount either. You can just motion to purchase the items, and then when the invoices come in, then you just sign on the invoices, but you don't have to dictate the cost.
But in principle, making maps is great, but we have to have signage so people get there and there when they're at.
And it's nice to have the trail markers too, so people know where they are.
Right.
I was gonna bring that up, because some people can
Yeah.
look at a map, and when they get to the
Oh, they
actual
see
property,
a
they don't,
deer path or
they can't
something, and they go
relate
on
the
and off,
two.
you know?
And if you walk around the bogs, is that which dike is the real one, you know? And it will become clear as we do mowing and whatnot, But
And you know, realtors have those information holders like we're talking about.
That's
I don't know where they
exactly
get
what it
them
is.
from, but
they get them from the same place we would get them.
Yeah, I
Because
was
we
gonna
we
say.
actually looked at the catalog.
Yeah, okay.
And this would be an action item on our open space plan.
Right, the public left no doubt, the number one request they had regarding open space and recreation was to please give us trails and maps. So with Emily's help and with this process, we're doing exactly that. So I did hear a motion to obtain the necessary materials for producing maps and signs and map dispensers for our trail system. Do I hear such a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion, again, we've seen the relative dollar amounts involved. I know with confidence that the Conservation Fund can easily handle that. So unless there's further discussion, we'll move to the vote in favor of purchasing these materials. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstaining, 400. Good progress.
Just a quick note.
Sure.
I was talking to, what's his name? He's gonna give me a schematic on the 16, or the 18-inch pipe, and and how.
You mean the engineer who was here earlier? Mr. Webby?
Webby, Joe Webby, yeah. Known
Well,
him
good.
about 50 years.
Sure.
Uh,
Well, I think that the more information we have on that project, the better prepared we'll be for whatever comes.
So he has all the engineering books with all the schematics and the different size pipes and all that, you know.
Yeah, they said,
Stand
the one that we suggested. is-
418s with the water that goes through there is, I can't see any problem.
Yeah.
No.
Supposedly 6 times.
Did you get this
what the
one?
other
That was a 218 or one?
Each of the two locations would have a pair of 18-inch pipes.
It's a total of 4.
So before, only 2 here, 2 there, we need to be clear, so that's a good point.
I know how much water can go through an 18.
Yeah, so do I.
Well, the idea is to have a high level of confidence that it's big enough.
I think the pool one was remarkable.
Well,
I'd seen the failure because they didn't have the pipes in yet, they put the road in first.
6-inch pipe, 3 6-inch pipe piece. It
Too
was
small.
ludicrous,
Yeah.
to be honest.
It took us a while to grasp that it wasn't appropriate, but since that part is behind us, let's consider it behind us and appreciate that we're now going where we are. What else to sign, or is that just it, Laurie?
That's it, that's enough folder.
Once those are all signed, that included the order of conditions for 55 Leon Court and the other document here, which was all order of conditions. Bill, didn't mean to hold this back from you. This is for you too. Just letting you back. So Emily, we have you this week
Yep,
and next week,
yes,
but that's it.
I think so. Next week will be the first week of August, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So 5 more days. She's been putting in about 4 hours a day, 3 times a week. So we've been getting 12 hours of highly qualified labor, and we appreciate that. Plus, she's the first one to try out the projector, which we donated to planning and conservation by Mr. Joe Campbell. We're delighted that it works.
I regret that I didn't get to take you out to check out the plant communities and things like that. but-
Well, she's here for 5 more days, but
Well,
we'll
and I've
just
got
see.
the bad ankle, so.
All right.
But it's nice to have somebody get to know that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of donations.
This has been a good exercise because I think now we will have any number of useful and efficient ways to utilize internship, should such folks come forward. And,
Recommend a position to anybody else?
well,
Just come along.
I think we've been well served, so thank you again. At this point, we've accomplished everything on our agenda. So what I would entertain, unless there's something
I
else.
think we still have to do the minutes of last.
Oh, the minutes.
Yeah.
So sorry, you are correct. The minutes of July 11th, which we will now look at.
I was not here.
Okay. Right. Let's take a look. We had a public hearing on the enforcement. We had information with Columbia Gas at Whitman Street. We had Mr. Boyle's project. we had the Greenbrier project, and we had some comments on the Zero Liberty Street project, and some signatures. I'd entertain a motion from someone other than Mr. Woodard to accept the minutes of July 11th as printed.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of July.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining? Mr. Woodard was not here, so he is respectfully abstaining. So 301 on the minutes for July 11th. Thank you. Anything else? If not, I entertain a motion again to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
And do I hear a second? Discussion, hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining, 400. Thank you, we stand adjourned. Just in time.